All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss the hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So, fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods in legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, our room this morning, we're talking about how to nail innovation without turning yourself and your team inside out. Bit of a tricky business, innovation. But let me introduce myself this morning. I'm Linda Steffens. I'm an accountant and author and an introvert, and I've been hanging around public practice for just over 30 years now. I've had a couple of practices of my own. I've managed some practices, and now I help accountants transition their ad hoc advisory into consistent advisory services. So that's what I do. And of course, my amazing co-host is with me again this morning, Kylie Baxter. Good morning.
Good morning. Those of you who are in the Clubhouse room can't see Linda and I, but we've both rocked up pretty in pink today, which is totally unplanned, but pleasant surprise for a Wednesday. A bit about me. So I have an accounting firm here on the Gold Coast. It's raining here today, which is a bit depressing. The thing, I suppose, that sets us apart from other accountants, because we basically all do the same thing, which, as Linda said, is we run a really relationships-based firm. I've had a couple of new staff start recently, and they've said, I can't believe how nice you guys are to your clients. I said, I'm sure you're always nice. They said, we were professional night, like we're professional. You guys are professional and nice. And I thought, I'm going to take that as a compliment. Don't know that's how it was meant, but that's fine. I'm going to take it as a compliment. And because we are, that is, I guess, what makes us a little bit quirky. We do take the time to get to know them, and it's amazing the things you find out and the amount of work that comes out of that. And the other thing is we're a completely digital office. We get cross with our clients if they send us stuff in the mail, so they never do that anymore. And if they rock up with paperwork in their hand, they get sent home to send it to us in what we call our language. So that's a little bit about me and us. But innovation, I am excited to talk about this, because recently we redid or tweaked our mission and values, because we've had some staff changes. And innovation is in our values. So on this other screen, I'm desperately trying to get that up so that I can share with you here it is here, share with you our interpretation. Because the way I did that was I collaborated with some staff and some clients and some external suppliers and gave them all these words, and then went through and pitched the one that came out with us. So innovation is one of our values. So let's really crack into that today. And which is funny, because 20 years ago, accountants and innovation, it's like oxymoron, right?
Exactly right. It's like it's that yes, complete oxymoron. You're exactly right. I was trying to think of another one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But you've given me an amazing idea for another topic as well, and that is around, you mentioned professional versus personal relationships, and how with clients, and how public practitioners see that. So not going to get into that right now, but I think that's a great topic, because we can often be challenged as to what's professional and what are we allowed to do, or what's the right thing to do. So I think we could talk about that. I think that'd be a great topic for upcoming. Thank you, Kylie. You're just adding to our topics list. Excellent.
Peter, please.
You're good. Thank you. And so for everybody in the Clubhouse stratosphere that is there, or anyone listening to us out on live stream on any of the platforms, please, we'd love you to chat with us as we go through the topic this morning. If you've got any questions, if you'd like to talk to us, you can. There are a number of ways in which you can do that. Out on the live stream platforms, you can just post your comments. We can see them. If you pop your name in too, that also helps us. But in the Clubhouse, you've got the little chat box, and you've also got the microphone box. So there's a couple of little things that you can talk to us about. For those in out there listening listening to us, please tell us where you're listening in from. We love to hear where our audience comes from, and we always get some great surprises. So please just say hello, and we'll say hello back. We always love to do that. We're friendly types of gals, aren't we? And so, we love to know who we're talking to. So good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever we might be tuning in from. Just a quick word, we are a CPA discussion group, and so you can get your CPE and CPD points for listening in to our conversations. And of course, as we kick off the room, our intention is always to be positive, supportive and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. All right. Innovation, how to nail innovation without turning yourself and your team inside out. It's no secret that we've got a whole lot of tech innovations that have certainly been involved in the accounting industry in the past few years, but innovation's more than that as well, which I think we'll get into. But there's a lot of innovation that's offered us opportunities to do the work for our clients that will really make a difference to them. A workplace culture conducive to innovation, there's plenty of research on this, is often good for our firm's bottom line, and it's something that our employees definitely value. However, there's always a but. The failure rate of innovation projects is substantial and has a huge negative impact on staff morale. So we've got to be a bit careful about how we go about things. So how do we successfully navigate innovation as an accountant? What is innovation for accounting? What should we be looking at? And can you actually be innovative without turning yourself and your team inside out? So that's what we're looking at this morning. So a good place to start. We love a definition in accounting. What is innovation? Yes. So of course I Googled some, definitions, as I do in preparation. And it just told me it's something new, such as an invention or the practice of developing and introducing new things. No surprises there. And innovation can often be a new product, a new service. It can also be just a new way of doing things or doing something, or even a new way of thinking. So that same little Google bit also told me that the practical benefits of innovation were one of many: improved productivity, reduced costs, increased competitiveness, improved brand recognition and value, new partnerships and relationships that you may not have had, increased turnover and improved profitability, were some of the things that this article talked about with regard to innovation. Kylie, you mentioned just in the lead up, you've just rejigged mission, value, strategic foundation, that sort of thing, and innovation popped up. That's interesting.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one, because when you speak to accountants or your team members about innovation, you're going to get two trains of thought generally. You're going to get the people that go, great, let's do it. What's that? And then you're going to get the people that go, I don't like change. I just want to do my job. Leave me alone. I'm billing, So it's a really interesting space. So I think, an important place to start is telling people what innovation is. And I shared that, we did survey external people and internal people, and I did put a definition next to innovation, whereas I didn't put a definition next to quality or accuracy or integrity. I didn't put, but innovation, I did feel that needed a definition, because whilst you're 100% right around what you've just shared, Linda, it's really hard when we have a historic situation in accounting where innovation doesn't really apply because we're in this little box. So I think the way I explain it to staff is innovation is anything outside our little box, and it's new perspectives.
Great.
And that's exactly what I say, new perspectives outside the box. And that sort of makes them go, oh, and it really, sometimes you see these light bulb moments of people going, but I thought we just always did it this way because that's the only way to do it.
Yes.
There are so many ways to do different things. And even innovation in its easiest and slightest form is showing someone how to do something on a system and saying to them, there'd definitely be other ways to do this, and I don't know if this is the quickest or smartest or fastest way.
Exactly.
You know, and they go, maybe I should go away and try and find that better way. That's innovation in its smallest level, but it's still innovative. You know,
absolutely.
I think new perspectives that lead to all of those positive outcomes, you know, productivity, efficiency improvement, value add, all of those sorts of things.
Yes.
So I think we're going to need to talk practically today about, you know, different
I agree.
innovation that has happened in accounting firms and how that has led. And sometimes I think also as accountants, because we don't really get exposed to this innovation word a lot, or sometimes we're overexposed where we're like, okay.
It's too much. That's right.
It's one or the other. It's not a happy medium.
No.
You know, I think probably we are being innovative in our firms, and we might just not be realizing it or recognizing it.
So I want to go back to one thing you said there right at the beginning, was the definition of innovation for you, or what you thought it was. And I think as being very detailed orientated people that we are, there's, oh my gosh, we see innovation, we think it could be this, it could be that, it could be so many things, and it all of a sudden becomes overwhelming and it's too hard. And, you know, that's a little bit on us. So I think the thing is, let's look at perhaps where we want to be innovative, or what that means to us as a firm, or you individually as a professional. What does innovation mean to you? And just hold true to that. You don't need to be doing everything or thinking of everything. I think that's where the turning yourself inside out comes into it. You know, it all just gets a bit too hard. But practically, yes, accountants are not known for innovation. We're particularly the butt of many a joke. You know, we're a bit boring. We can't go outside the box. And we've talked about our image problem before, you know, and that, you know, we're not, can't do things on the spot, can't think on the spot, all of those different things. So I think we can be bombarded with this idea of innovation that accountants just don't do it.
Absolutely, because we work in a fairly, from a compliance point of view, we work in a reactive state. It's all happened before. There's not much we can do about it. It's just about processing, da-da-da. So we do definitely get pigeonholed. But equally, I think we pigeonhole ourselves to a degree.
Yes.
You know, I think 5 years ago, advisory services were a little bit innovative. If you could do that, if you were using some software, if you're showing, and now it's sort of, if you're not doing advisory, why not? You know, it's more of a standardized thing. So it's an interesting space. And I think if you had a look at a scale of super comfortable versus I'm really uncomfortable, I can't deal, accountants would really sit on all areas of that line, because we all have different abilities and skill sets, but also comfort levels on the way we adapt to these sorts of things.
Absolutely. And I think there's plenty of chatter out there that, you know, if you're not changing, or you're not moving forward, or you're not challenging yourself, well, you're going backwards, right? So, you know, the fast-paced world that we live in certainly in a professional space, but also in a personal space, requires us just to look at these things and not really be fearful of them, I think is the thing. So, you know, think of that definition for yourself, lock it down into something you're comfortable with, and roll with it. And before you know it, you'll be innovating like a, you know, champion, left, right, and center, I would say. So, yeah, just think about that. Place it where it's comfortable for you.
So I lead with a few questions when people are struggling to be innovative. And I talk to my clients about this, you know, in our monthly sessions as well. You know, innovation is just asking yourself, is this the only way to do it?
That's great.
Is it? Is this the only way to do it? You know, and that applies to whatever, whoever. Is this the only way? Is there another way? What are the pros and cons of that other way? You know, and Linda, you said at the beginning, which I think, you know, we should address pretty early on in this conversation, the failure rate to innovation is high.
Yes.
Why do we think that is?
I think it is big. Well, two things. I think innovation by its very nature has a high failure rate, only because it is trying new things. And guess what? Some new things don't work. and or don't turn out, so by its
100%.
very nature, it has a reasonably high failure rate, and for good reason. Just because something's new or you want to, make a change, it's not change for change's sake. I think that's the thing. So some things you might start and they just might not work out. That's okay. We put them on the back burner. But, I think also the other thing is those small steps, and where I was getting to with that definition is that sometimes we just bite off a bit more than we can chew, and, make it hard for ourselves, set ourselves up for failure rather than setting ourselves up for success.
I think also we're a now culture, we want it now. We're used to as accountants, we're used to having things handed to us a little bit on a silver platter. We're spoiled for choice with software providers and all of that sort of thing. And they literally hand feed us to the point these days where every single piece of software you use has their own certification program, like their own training, most of it's for free, and it's like, okay, well, we don't really have to do much. It just comes to us. But I think because we are that now culture, we just want to implement things and we want to see them work now. Whereas I think there are better ways to do that. You might have an idea, and we'll talk practically shortly, but you might have an idea. You really have to spell out what the change management process is going to be there, check-in points, make yourself a little budget, because we're accountants and we like to do that, really know when you're going to call this a success, or when you're going to call it a failure, or when you're going to call it a I don't know which one it is, so we'll just keep on persevering. Like, what are your key point decisions? Innovation, I think, fails when expectations aren't clearly set out. Or when we try to do too much ourselves as the boss. It needs to be shared with the staff members.
Exactly. And, all through our rooms and our discussions, Kylie, we talk about planning and thinking about what we want to do. So planning and having a strategy. We also talk about communication and setting those expectations up front and talking about them. We also talk about that collaborative approach. So that runs across everything we do. And, look, there's been a number of topics that we've talked about that definitely fall into, a lot of our topics fall into that innovation basket. So we talked last week about bookkeeping divisions, and should we have bookkeeping divisions, and what might they look like? Marketing for accountants, a 4-day work week. We talked about that as well. Graduate programs, working from home, other income streams. They're all innovative type topics and things that you might want to tackle. But you're right, small steps, because change is a big deal, and change takes time. It takes money, all of those resources. It sucks up all of those. So you just can't do too much at once. Otherwise, you are going to set yourself up for failure.
100%. Now, at this stage, I just want to put in a recommendation for a book if you're interested in innovation, or if you've tried it and haven't done it.
Absolutely. We love hearing about books.
Yeah. There is a book by a woman called Dr. Amantha Imber. Her name, it's
a big name.
Name. It's Amantha, T-H-A, Imber, I-M-B-E-R. And she writes a book called The Innovation Formula. And the little bio says, learn how to create a culture where innovation thrives at an individual, team, leadership and organization level. So you can see there straight away, she's all about sharing the load, but there's a lot of practical tips. And on the front cover, it says 14 science-based keys for creating a culture where innovation thrives. It's really interesting because she talks about the science behind it, how people tick, what makes different people tick, putting in place key elements that foster creativity. Another thing that we don't generally associate with accountants, but we're quite creative people. Not in the how creative can you be with my tax return, but just in how we're running our own businesses. Well, yeah, it's one of those things. And the other thing that she really plugs in there is creating cultural change by rewarding innovation. So if someone comes to you and they're like, I think that we might not be using best of breed, or there might be this, or there might be that, creating this cultural change where you're like, great job, regardless of whether it's right, wrong, succeeds, doesn't succeed, whatever. You want to create this culture of being innovative and trying new things, because we know if we do the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome, that's the definition of insanity.
Absolutely. Yes, it is. That's great. And I love too, there's a lot of these things that, you know, as accountants, we've often thought woo-woo, fluffy, they have no structure. But guess what? All of these things are actually based in science, and they can have formulas, you know, behind them, and why we would want to do them and how you go about them. So they're not as unstructured as we would first believe. What we're seeing out there is perhaps people that are not as structured as us talk about it. So, you know, and there's a lot of noise around that and the information we're taking in around innovation. So I love that. Thank you for that book recommendation, The Science Behind Innovation. So, you know, that's great. Check it out, everybody, if you've got a chance. All right. Practicality. Kylie, we're all about how we go about things when we chat. We mentioned why would we want to innovate to start with. So, you know, I think that's the first thing. It really is about moving forward, challenging ourselves, you know, and also just making life a little bit easier, making smarter business decisions, helping our clients more efficiently, helping our team members do the more work that they love, or whatever that is, and just make things easier, right? Is that why you think you need to innovate?
Yeah, it's for better outcomes. And, you know, that better outcome could fit into 20 different boxes. But at the end of the day, you want a better outcome. I always think when people say, well, what's a good example of innovation? You know, how can I do it? Where's a baby steps place to start? And for me, it's time management, because everyone's in control of their own. It's not firm-wide to start with. Everyone can give each little one a go. So you might say to one person, you do this, the other person, you do that, I'll do this, and then let's collaborate and collect, you know, our findings or research.
Yeah.
But time management is a good one, because I don't know one person that says, I've got too much time. Like genuinely, not only in accounting, but just in the world. I've got too much time.
No.
And you know, maybe people feel like that when they first retire.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, maybe. Still waiting for that day, Kylie.
Yeah. Right. So there's so many ways to be innovative with your time management. We have had a room based on that 4-day work week concept.
Yes.
I've shared previously about, you know, time blocking, making sure that you're only doing certain things and being focused on certain things in your time. I've got other staff that do really different things, where they do some like sprints and that sort of thing, where they're like, you know, today's not a sprint day, so you know, hopefully you don't want anything too much from me, because I'm just getting stuff done today. Whereas other days I'll have sprint days where they're like at 150% on.
Yeah, and they're just,
you know?
just knocking things off their to-do list. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So I think time management is the best place, in my opinion, particularly in accounting, for people to start. How can I be innovative? How can I think creatively about what, you know, what we need to do, or what the problem is, and what would be an outcome? And an outcome would be, you feel like you have more time. Unlikely.
Yes.
You feel like you managed your time better. Good. Or you were able to fit something else in that you've really wanted to do. And normally, you know, because of our world, that's, I went for a walk on the beach this morning, or I got home by 6 o'clock every day, or, you know, normally it's one of those sorts of indicators. But you have to set yourself success criteria. Otherwise, you've got nothing to measure against.
Correct. Yes. And that is absolutely true. Measuring everything and having well, not everything, but measuring what's going on with regard to that outcome. And they won't necessarily be tangible things, as you said there. They'll have to be things that you might have to reflect on and look for. I can think of another. I didn't wake up at 2 a.m. thinking about all the things I didn't do, you know. So there's a whole lot of other things, because we've got a lot of information floating around those big processing brains of ours, just by the very nature of the work that we do. And so I think also innovation. So where do we start with innovation? You've said time. Let's think about how we could get back some more time, or use our time in a more efficient way. Another great spot, if you're wanting to talk to your team or those around you or other professionals, a great way to start is, where does it hurt? What don't I like doing? What is the thing that I go, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. I don't want to do it today. That initial day-to-day pain feeling that you have about certain tasks or certain things that you're doing in your day, is another great place to start, because we're very motivated to move away from pain. We will make decisions about, oh, wow, if I could take out this out of my life, or if I could spend, again, it links back to time, perhaps, if I could spend 1 hour instead of 3 hours in my week doing this, wouldn't that be fabulous? What could I use that time for? So we're very motivated when we start at pain, thinking how we move away from it, and then motivated to whatever that pleasure side of things might be. So if you look at that, that's all basic psychology there for you. But, you know, that's where you might want to start.
Yeah, and the innovation comes from the action, you know.
Yes.
Okay, these are the things I want. What do I have to do to get there?
Yes.
You know, and that's where that innovation piece comes in. So it can actually be quite practical. I think we get a little bit carried away with the airy fairiness of it. Like, it's this word, people talk about it a lot. Usually when you go and hear someone speak about innovation, they've done something massive, which has had a massive impact, and you're like,
and it's changed the world, right? You know, yes. And it just seems way too big for us, you know, little accountants going off to our work and doing our job every day. That's not true.
So, like, a really interesting one is portal, right? One of my staff used to call it the porthole. So I sort of giggle every time I say portal, which is about 10 times a day. But portal, you know, a lot of firms these days are moving towards a client portal. That's how they share information, particularly here in Australia, where we've got this whole tax file number share. And security and privacy and So it's a real thing. However, that comes with all of these little side issues, like, you know, Joe and Sally share an email address. Well, how's that going to be each of their digital signature? And so-and-so doesn't have a computer, and this person's only got a Samsung, and it's not the one or one or the other.
They don't have a Gmail address, or, you know, yes.
There's all of these barriers. And you really need to figure out how you're going to do that. But some accountants, it's been really interesting. You know, people jumped on board quite early, then there was a bit of a lull. Now a lot of people are going to portal because document management systems link in with that, which is great. But then there's this whole other group where it's like, it's just too hard. I don't want to. I'm so busy doing the work. I don't want to handhold my clients through that tech and IT process because I don't see the value. And that word value is so interesting, because we all have different values and put different weights on certain things. And that's why I think not everyone innovates in the same way.
No. Doesn't mean that you're not being innovative at all in other parts. I know I've been that exact example has happened with a firm that I've just been working with, and they were thinking about portal. We really needed portal, but there was so much other change going on and bedding in change around other systems, other processes, new team members, that the team just said to me, look, Linda, we understand this is great, but we just can't do it. We're just a bit change fatigued here, you know? And so there is a right and a right and a wrong time perhaps to do some bigger innovation projects. So again, innovation can be small, it can be a bit bigger, but, you know, you're probably innovating all the time and we just don't give ourselves credit for it.
Correct, because all public practitioners in Australia currently have a problem where we need to start properly identifying our clients if we're not doing so already. Now, I'm sure everyone's been doing it. You know, if people come in, they check their ID, pretty standard. But now we need to go and actually do it and keep all these records and all of this stuff. And it's a bit of a thing where you're like, oh, okay, well, now it's an extra step in the onboarding process. You know, your firm might figure out a way, hey, we can do it this way, and that's great. Or you might look outwards and use a piece of software. But that is innovation in itself. We've got a problem. You know, whether we created it ourselves or not, we did not create this. Anyway, we've got a problem. What is the solution? And what, not just what is a solution, what is the best solution for us you know, and the way we work and the people that we have and the clients that we have. And that's why everyone doesn't just choose the same system. You know, they don't come out with one tech solution and go, oh, and there'll be no competitors because this is all there is. You know, we've got competition, and we know that through our own practice management software providers as well.
Yes, exactly.
You know, they all offer all of these great, amazing things. You have to figure out what's best for you.
And I think once,
and
I think once you then make a decision, don't punish yourself about all the other competitors that pop up on the market, you know, next month and the month after and whatever. You know, I think you've got to just then absolutely test and trial and make the best of whatever decision you made. Just don't punish yourself about that. Stick to it, make your decision and go for it, you know. And I think if you communicate around that as well, really, really important that you're sharing that approach to innovation, I think is the thing. You know, it may turn out that that piece of software isn't right. And I know somebody else said to me the other day, another firm was a firm in the US, actually. They only 2 years ago, they had completely changed their tech stack. Now they're deciding, we've learned our lessons. We don't quite like those. We're going to have another go at changing 2 key pieces of software. So innovation just keeps going, you know, and the team was on board with that, but only because it was communicated, you know, and they talked about it. So that was really important.
Absolutely. I think we also should address the benefits of innovation, and we've sort of scattered them in throughout our conversation. But from a team perspective, innovation really improves motivation.
Yes, it does.
You know, encourages collaboration. It gives individual staff members some ownership over things. It increases your professional recognition on occasion. And the big one that I think is a bit topical, it says it contributes to your personal brand. Now, I will share that we absolutely have experienced this. So we do things a bit different here at IQ. You know, I'm never afraid to just throw our clients in the deep end and go, guess what, we're doing this, jump on board, we'll hold your hand, like this is the go. And they're pretty cool, you know, like they're pretty used to that. Our clients like that. But I had a client say to me recently that and I think I've shared this, you know, they are modeling their business on some of our business practices because they have seen the difference that it makes, which was so cool. And for us, I guess that's becoming a little bit of our personal brand. I would like to think it's not, if you go to IQ Accountants, they just change things all the time and you just have to jump on the roller coaster and hold on tight. Not that. I'd like to think it's about, yes, things change, but they change for the better and it makes it easier. So it's about that client experience, you know. But yeah, I think it definitely contributes to your personal brand.
Absolutely. Your personal brand and you know, also to that employer of choice concept as well. You know, we are so fighting, everyone around the world is fighting for talent, you know, and so if you've got this brand of innovation and that when you actually get into the firm and you uphold that experience as well, that is exactly what happens, that you're not just saying it to try to, you know, be held up as somebody that does. You have to actually do it. That just makes a big difference to people who are attracted to you. And it really sets you. So I know just traditionally, when I ask accountants, you know, why do they do what they do? And they say, well, we love solving problems and we love helping people. Well, innovation flows straight into that. You know, if you're helping, I think you've got to sometimes think outside of the box, like you said, Kylie, you know, and your clients obviously looked at you and went, wow, she's a real problem solver. She's just thinking of new ideas. No one actually expects you to actually get it right when it comes the first time necessarily. Great if that happens. But when it comes to innovation and trying something new, it's always a bit hard and it's always a bit clunky and you might not get it right the first go. That's what innovation is. And I think that's where at our very core, accountants can struggle with that. We're so time orientated. It's like, I just got to change this thing. I'm going to make it better. We're going to just put that in and that's going to work. And then when it doesn't and it takes longer and something we thought might take a day takes 5 weeks, you know, then we get a little bit I suppose, disheartened with it and go, oh, this innovation rubbish is not for me.
Yeah, and one of the key things to innovation is seeking out positivity. You
Mm.
need, so practically, if you go, I've got this problem, I've found the solution, I know what I want to onboard with the team, how am I going to work this change management piece to be innovative here? You need to seek out positivity. So a little trick that I do is I go, right, what's this? You know, because we innovate in all areas of your practice. I know that in this piece, that's really been annoying this staff member, or that staff member particularly is going to jump on with me, and you need a cheerleader.
Yes.
So with change management, you know, we want to lead by example, but you also need a cheerleader, you know, in the office going, yes, guys, let's do it. Let's do it. So it's not only coming from you. So you have to make sure, and this is one of my, you know, key practical steps to nailing innovation within your firm, is seeking out positivity. Get yourself a cheerleader, because what that does in itself is it encourages other people to think outside the box, collaboration, team brainstorming. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think not giving people the opportunity to complain about it before it's implemented fully. So I generally have a rule that we only make positive statements, and if there's no positive statements, that's okay, but we only make positive statements in weeks, you know, basically in the first third of the project, because it's too soon. You know what I mean? That's like a new staff member starting, and on their first day you go, oh, well, they didn't get anything done.
No,
they just watched training videos. Like, let's fire them. Like, no, let's cut it. You know, like, you never ever do that with staff members. We give them a certain period of time to us to get used to them to get used to us, and them to start doing the billing, right?
Yes, yes.
But suddenly with innovation and change management ideas, we don't extend this sort of freedom to
oh, we're
things.
funny characters, aren't we? We're just funny characters. And I think this, you know, it just I love this, because I love breaking down all of these norms or these ideas that we think we should be. There's nothing about we should be anything. We just are who we are. And so I think I'm all about embracing that, whatever that is, and, you know, just being completely human and fallible as we are. But as perfectionists, we don't generally bring that to our professional sides or our business sides. And I think it's really important that we actually do. Because that's 100%. Where some great things can happen, right? It's where the magic happens.
100%. Like, I just think, you know, you really need to show confidence in your ideas as well. If you're the one, or if that staff member is the one that's done it, you need to empower them to back themselves as well, because nothing's going to happen overnight. Like, the first time you might onboard a new system or a new process or something, a new way of doing things, it's going to be uncomfortable. You know, you have to sit in that discomfort for the greater good. Don't cut and run for 1 or 2 days.
No.
Make sure you've got in your plan that checklist of that decision point.
Yes. And I think let's just take our time with innovation. It doesn't have to, I think, again, because of how it's positioned out there in the world, it needs to be smart, snappy. All of a sudden, you were talking about the now culture before. You know, it's not necessarily that. Let's just take our time. I think that's what makes us a little bit uncomfortable with it as well, because we like information. We like a little bit of time to think about things, process things. And then we can handle change like the best of anybody. It's just our way of dealing with it. So I think that's important as well. But I love that seeking out positivity, and it can't just always be you. It's got to be others. And I know too that when you seek out positivity, then also celebrate those small wins, I think, is also really important in that. You know, if you're working with somebody or a team in the office and it's quite public, and you just have a tiny little breakthrough or something worked that you weren't sure whether it was going to, you know, high fives all round. That physical thing of, woo, we did it, you know, that's great. All right, what do we need to do next? We've got 100 other things to do, but that doesn't matter. Take the time to celebrate that tiny little thing. And that creates positivity in the office and the workplace then as well. It's like, oh, I want to do this innovative thing. Where's my go at that? You know, that's
I 100% agree. Yeah, 100% agree with that, Linda. Too often we think that every single person in the office sees and understands the same thing, and they just don't, because we're different people. So, and we all got different levels of understanding. So something also that we might think is going super well might be creating some administrative problems
Yes.
that because of my, no negative comments for the first third of the project, we might not otherwise understand.
Yes.
So you have to seek to understand all of those things and make sure that when you go to celebrate this checkpoint or this great outcome, everybody actually agrees with you that it's the same thing. And that's that collaboration piece. I also wanted to say, with innovation, you really have to adapt a non-hierarchical system.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it.
In accounting firms, medium, large size firms, we are struck with hierarchy. We've got our juniors, we've got our grads, we've got our intermediates, seniors, managers, blah, blah, blah. And often people go, that's not my job. That's not my job. That will come from the top and I've just got to do it, da-da-da.
Or I can't tell Kylie that's a stupid idea,
She'll laugh at me,
Yes.
And that's the thing. Like, really, you need to foster this situation in your firm where you share problems. You share tough problems. You share, this isn't working as well as I think it could, or a lot, I've had several people sort of make a comment about this. If anyone's got any ideas or feedback, please come to me. And when we say anyone, we actually mean make sure they understand that anyone really means anyone. Because sometimes people hear, this is the problem. If anyone's got a solution, come to me. And they go, that's quite a high level problem. I don't think it's for me as a team member. I just won't say anything, even though I think this, the best ideas can actually come from juniors in my experience.
Yes.
Because they're less indoctrinated to the firm.
And to accounting for that degree. Yes.
To accounting. That's what I mean. Not to your firm or your value or your brand, but just how accounting firms run. So they look at things completely differently and through different eyes. So they come up with these solutions. And I've experienced it myself where I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. We have to, it's not going to work in that way. We're going to have to talk.
Yes, there's some history behind this. We've got to flush that out a little bit more, but it's got legs. Exactly right. I've seen that happen before too. The other spot you can see it coming from too is your administrative support staff. You're trying to solve an accounting. Yes, you're trying to solve an accounting, what seems to be technical issue. And the admin goes, well, why don't you just do this? And it's like, wow, we never thought of that. That's fabulous. So yes, they will see things with different eyes. And that's what innovation is about. Sometimes we can just be too blinkered, and that whole concept of you can't see the forest for the trees. I think we're going to be careful.
We can't know everything.
No.
We run the show. We do all of the stuff. You can't know everything. And that's why you have to let other people shine as well. And it's a beautiful space. It's beautiful when someone unexpected goes, I think this, it actually works. Everyone celebrates them. It's a great value outcome. And it makes them feel appreciated every single time that process or system or whatever works. Like, it's an amazing thing. So, I hope, what comments did you write? I always like to go back to your LinkedIn comments and make sure we address them all. But I think, innovation without turning yourself inside out, like, that is 100% share the load. Make sure that you're getting everyone involved. Give your staff that reason to care as well.
Absolutely. And I've got a tip for those that are perhaps in management or leadership positions, or even maybe you're not even, and you want to try to start leading some innovation and break through that hierarchical barrier, which, absolutely sits around accounting a lot of the time. The best phrase that you can say to anybody as leader when you're talking about innovation is, I don't know the answer. I don't know what this is. We need to work together on this. Help me out. Because people are at all levels, motivated again to help. So, if you've got a firm where employees tend to sit back a little bit and just wait for these decisions to drip down from the top, then innovation is going to be tricky, because it's an all-in type exercise, and that's again where that magic happens. So just saying, what, I can see this problem. I'd like us to think about that, in perhaps some out-of-the-box ways. I don't know the answer. I've got an idea where we might start, but I actually don't know the answer. So let's work on that together. So that's just that very humble approach that you don't know everything. It's that collaborative approach. So I think that's a great place to start when you're trying to get others on board.
Me too. Me too.
Excellent. All right. So not turning ourselves inside out and our teams inside out. First thing we talked about was defining innovation for us. What should innovation be so that we're not scared of it again? You know, it's this great big thing. It can mean many and varied things. So define what it should be for you. Is it just about working a little bit smarter? That gets bandied around all of the time. You know, better business decisions and working smarter, not harder. That really at the core, I think, is what it is. But in which areas might you want to apply that? You talked also too about the key concepts of what innovation is and what it looks like. And again, I think comes back to that definition that it can be anything. Involve others. Really important. It's not all just on you. A collaborative approach to innovation works well. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Another, thing. Just sort of keep that, just small steps. Take small steps, decide what you want to do, put the plan in place, and, keep going forward with that. I love yours, Kylie. Seeking positivity. Love that. So what was it? The first third of the project, no negative comments. My mother always told me if you don't have something nice to say, you shouldn't say anything at all. That's your concept of the first third. It's still in test trial. It's still,
Give the new kid a break.
Yeah, give the new kid a break. I love that. So whether it is a person, a process, a product, a service, whatever it is, give the new kid a break. Isn't that fabulous? And of course, asking for help, being collaborative. I don't know the answer. Let's work on this together. And who knows what we might come up with. So I think there's some pretty good practical tips in that, Kylie, would you say?
I hope so. I hope that we've had some good listeners in Clubhouse Room. So hopefully everyone found some value in our conversation this morning.
Absolutely.
This is where I wait with bated breath to find out what we're talking about next week.
It is. Here we go. You ready?
Ready.
All right. So Wednesday, 7th of September. Goodness gosh, we're into September already. 7 a.m. We're going to talk about, this is one you're going to love, Kylie. I know you're going to love it. Protect your time and maximize client satisfaction by learning when to say yes.
Good. How about when to say no?
Yeah. Well, that's the flip side, isn't it? Absolutely, we'll get into when to say no because it is all about that. But when should we say yes to things as opposed to saying yes all of the time, and what impacts does that have? So that's what we'll be chatting about next week in the Public Practice Accountants Club. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and letting us know where you're tuning in from. That's always good fun, and we hope you have a great week, a great day, and a great week. And thanks, Kylie, once again. Fabulous.
Thank you, Linda. You do a great job. Heavy lifting. All good.
Couldn't do it without you. See you next week. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.